understanding if they trust you. And trust does not get built overnight. It takes time. You have to remain consistent. So formal education, for example, if there is one person who is an MBA and there is one person who is not an MBA, when you are deciding to give an assignment for the very first time, that's the only time you will look at that. Because once you have started doing something, then it is about what you have done. The only way to measure a success of a marketer is your brand has to grow, your numbers have to do the singing.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with Indiefolio. Today we have Ashish Tiwari joining us, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Home Credit. Ashish has an incredible career where he's worked with some exciting companies from HCL to Vodafone to Jubilant. His last stint was at Future Generali, and now he's at Home Credit. I'm excited to unpack his journey and learn a lot about his frameworks about marketing various products to consumers in India. Hey Ashish, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Kavan. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad we finally got time to do this and really appreciate you giving me a slot on a Friday. I'm sure it's been a busy day, so I'll get started right away. I when I went to your profile, I saw that you actually specialize in math and physics. So my first question was, how is it that you decided that marketing is a career you want to focus on?
That's interesting. So, in fact, I at one point in time I wanted to be a nuclear physicist as a student, but I mean, life is what happens to you when you're planning other things. So, I started, and on the way, I got charmed up by these computers. I mean, I'm talking about way back 1997, 98 era when computers was coming in, and suddenly, I mean, internet came and it opened a different world altogether. And then I realized that, I mean, there is something beyond where you can create a much larger impact. And where underline, while at the face of it, it might be impact, but underlying fact and levers are still physics and math. It's much more process oriented. If you look at physics, physics is nothing but the whys of things. So you keep asking why till the time you reach to the finite logic. And mathematics is the art of asking why. Okay. And if you come to think of marketing, it's built with both of them. It's a fair balance of art and science put together. And what we end up calling art is nothing but muscle memory which gets built because of you have been practicing science and maths over a period of time. Yeah. So I very much
Right.
I very much do physics and maths still. It's just that you put them together and call it as marketing.
Superb. I think I'm glad to see that you see so many parallels there. You actually spent a couple of years studying one thing, and then after some time you hopped into doing, I believe, an MBA. A lot of people who are just starting out or are still studying, they are so confused about what they should double down on. They're trying to strive for their passion. Some of them have already invested years into maybe studying, doing a job as a fresher, and they don't like what they're into. So what was going on in your mind, right? It's such a it's such a different, while you say there are a lot of similarities, after studying applied or sciences like that, jumping into marketing is not common. So how is it that you convinced yourself that you want to take this leap?
I think a lot of it is got to do with the very first people you work with. Okay, so I mean, very little credit of what I am today is to me, and a lot to the people I have been able to work with or got connected with or had the good fortune of being together with. I think that helped me get some perspective early in life. Yeah, so as I said, a lot of us feel that marketing is about creating campaigns. My very first boss or the supervisor I had, okay, she used to say, you create campaigns to be able to persuade people. And you do persuasion because of you want them to decide in your favor. And you want them to decide in your favor because of you want the cash register to ring. Okay. So finally, all of it is you are doing for the cash register, and the only way to measure a success of a marketer is your brand has to grow, your numbers have to do the singing. And if you can make your numbers do the singing, to do that you have to put a process in place. And the only way, I mean, if you don't want your success to be a flash in the pan, then the way it is to do is to be able to put a process about things what you do. And when I asked her saying that, I mean, how do I go about it? There are these, from where do you get these ideas, these frameworks? And she is a MBA from one of the topmost colleges, and she's a gold medalist on top of that. She said that, I mean, if you want to have a crash course on business, then MBA is the thing to do. So go with that. That will give you work
Mhm.
with couple of years, so that when your professor is telling you that, oh, there is a balance sheet and PBT, you know that how does PBT looks like, rather than just thinking about it. So I think,
Right.
as I say that, there's a good book also about it, that you can actually map back your life. Okay,
Hmm.
I mean, there's a reason why car windshields are much bigger than the rear view mirror. Okay, because of the perfect vision is the rear vision. Am I right? You can look at, anybody can
Right.
look at past, and I can today tell you a thousand things. Was I as clear when I started? The answer is no. I had
Mm.
aspirations, in which everybody should have.
Mhm.
I had aspirations, I had
Mhm.
thoughts, I had dreams. But then I couldn't have changed the fact that I am a maths and physics grad.
Mm.
The question
Right.
comes about how to use what you got at the best way. And when I got exposed to this entire thing about business and marketing, I think that's when I saw the magic. Because today, if you look at any marketer who can't deal with data, will have challenges in surviving in the market. Am I right? As a business person, if you don't have a logic behind what you do, you will have a challenge convincing people around you. Okay. And I think my background helps me doing that.
Absolutely. I want to now ask you about your thoughts on just formal education, right? You've of course gone and done an MBA. You also go and also, I believe, are a visiting faculty as well. So in today's time, I'm seeing so often that people come from a very different background, but they learn on the job, and then they are hired. In fact, a lot of people who I have interviewed on this podcast, they were engineers who didn't necessarily learn marketing formally, and today are marketing leaders or CMOs in companies. But today, obviously, the space is getting more and more competitive year on year. So what's your take to formal education? Do you think that if somebody is wanting to pursue marketing, it's very important for them to enroll themselves into a course?
See, Kavan, I mean, what is important is the basic skill set. Education helps you give frameworks in a finite time, in a particular environment. All said and done, what education does or otherwise is to get you in the room. Whether you will be able to survive the room or what happens to you after that room is about how what you do in the room. So formal education, for example, if there is one person who is an MBA and there is one person who is not an MBA, when you are deciding to give an assignment for the very first time, that's the only time you will look at that. Because once you have started doing something, then it is about what you have done becomes much more important than anything. There's a saying also, what you did till now has got you in the room. What happens to you from now onwards is what you do now. I am not sure if formal education will give you any finite edge for infinite time. Yeah. There's always a timeline to which this edge will come. Beyond that is education might end, learning shouldn't. The only way to
Absolutely.
grow is to learn and unlearn. As you rightly
Right.
said, the competition is increasing. More than the competition, the the market forces are changing rapidly. In year 2000, when I started my career, the computer used to be big thing. One of the biggest skill set people used to write is that I know MS Word, MS Excel, and MS PowerPoint. And internet surfing used to be a skill set. It used to be a differentiator, and I'm not kidding. For you, for some of your listeners, it might come as a surprise that, oh, how can somebody say that I can surf internet and I can do email? That can be a skill set, but it's true. There was a very very important skill set for a lot of uh, CXOs or people attached to CXOs, which were called as seckies or secretaries. That was called as shorthand. There were classes of shorthand going. Have you even heard about it today? I mean, if somebody comes and says that they know, uh, say how to surf internet as a skill set, you will probably not even look at them. What was computer doing in year 2000 is what today AI is doing in 2024. The word has
Right,
changed. So if somebody,
right.
because of I was formally educated on surfing the internet, I can't carry on with that education any further. So it's not your degrees will end, your learning shouldn't. And I think that's the key mantra for anybody to grow and sustain.
Definitely, I think I really resonate with that. That learning's more important than schooling, but definitely, I think formal education does give you access, which is getting you in those rooms. And I think a fair balance between the two should be important. Just because you got some a degree doesn't mean you're done. It's just getting started. I want to now touch upon your experience at Home Credit. You were brought along to look at their entire brand and digital transformation. So from the horse's mouth, I'd love to know what's been the experience so far for the past 2 years, and uh, what is the real reason you want to double down on a digital first brand for Home Credit.
Kavan, I mean, so we are, as Home Credit, we are an NBFC and the only MNC NBFC in the market. The kind of a product category I deal with is loans. So I enable people live or do better in life. Money is very very important. Even as a commodity, it is a most one of the most important commodity to help you access other commodities. But there's a reason I am using the word commodity, because of the money which I provide has no differentiation than the money anybody else provides. And you would have heard that product used to has to have a USP, has to have a different product differentiation. You can't create a differentiation in money. Am I right? There's a reason why people create brand, because of typically when you create a brand, it will give you a badge value for a consumer to flaunt. Every
Right.
other product have Most of the products have badge value. I mean, you have a phone of X brand versus Y brand, you won't talk about. You will probably just saying the name of the brand or the name of the car, if somebody is driving which brand of a car, and things like that. None of these guys tell you, or never you will have a conversation around a badge value of a loan saying, oh, I am I have arrived in life because of I got a loan today. Okay. And when I started to look at it, that was a very interesting challenge to be in a category where product does not have a differentiation except pricing, and pricing is a zero sum game at the end of the day. Okay, so you can't really play on pricing. The brand does not have a pride of ownership or badge value as such, and despite that, you have to be able to create consumer attract them, and then do a sustainable business. So when I came in with this challenge, I think this has tested my entire marketing muscle in last 2 years, and we have had a pretty successful run. I think we created a communicable proposition called as Zindagi Hit. Basically,
Mhm.
loan itself is not bad; its usage might be. Okay, so I mean, if it allows you to do more, what you could have done with within say about in a finite time, if it allows you to do that today, which will help you do better tomorrow, then that's not bad. It's more like a lever, yeah, which is helping you uplift. And this work is pretty impactful. The reason why I'm calling as impactful is we give out these small ticket loans both at as the consumer durable as well as the personal loan and cash loan and things like that. I mean, think about the numerous number of the riders who come to deliver. They are able to deliver to you because of they have got an access to, say, a mobile phone through which they get the order and do the entire tracking, which is financed by Home Credit. Otherwise, they would have not been able to do that. Okay.
mm,
Or they took a personal loan and started a small business of just nothing but probably putting up a small shop. Or they got a loan
mm,
to buy the bike on which they are riding. Or the women who are able to participate in economy because of they got a cash loan or a mobile loan to do particular different stuff. Okay. Or to a kid who's been able to study better because of he or she got the loan and was able to access the
mm.
device which helped them. So I think there's a very fulfilling journey. It has been a very fulfilling journey for last 2 years to be able to do all those things. Why digital? Because of primarily some of the things. One of the biggest stigma with loans is that whenever you ask for a loan, a consumer particularly feels a little unsure and not so good about themselves because of they are
Mhm.
asking. It feels like as if I'm asking a favor. Think about it. If I were to ask you even 100 rupees today, I would be like, can you please give me 100 rupees? Okay.
Right,
But if you are taking that money to for the betterment, why should you feel any sorry? At the end of the day, what you are
right,
doing is you are a loan is nothing but but a future discounted cash flow given to you today, for which you are willing to pay tomorrow. Am I right? Because if you are
right.
able to do more, so why should there be any kind of a even a slightest bit of a feeling that you have to look down? Digital gives
Right.
you that privacy and lets you complete the transaction in your own zone. Okay, it's a faceless. Also, I mean, it helps us reach out at a wider audience. It helps us have those conversations and give unparalleled superior experience to our consumers. It helps us service better.
Mhm.
Today we provide a world class service both at the time of acquisition and servicing. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to run and you don't need a 300 different documents. It's just a couple of documents and some 10 minutes journey that you can have access to the funds to do better. So I think those are things which are possible with digital coming in. So it only so you can reach out to people who would otherwise not have access to fund, reach out to them at their convenient place, time, and zone. I
Mm.
think so. It has been a very interesting journey for last 2 years.
I think incredible, impactful work, you folks are doing. Just, I believe, if I'm able to get a phone, get a vehicle, the delta of, the opportunities which will increase year on year, or, purchase to purchase, is extremely high. Um, Talking about impact, I think another place where I see a lot of conversations and chatter around is financial inclusion, and rather educating people about various aspects around that. And I know you also have a lot of initiatives. One of them, I think, is Paise Ki Pathshala. Now, I wanted to understand, how does this fit into the entire, or rather the broader marketing plan? Um, how do you make sure that you're actually genuinely educating your consumer versus it just, being left at like a campaign? How do you go about the entire customer education aspect of your job?
Come on, so one needs to understand that money discussions are pretty private, and also I think you only want to be able to have those discussions with institutions or individuals whom you trust. Second important thing which we believe is that it's not only about earning, it's also about knowing, which means investment, how to make money work for you, and Prevention. Given that
Mhm.
we are trying to create a digital brand and we are working very, very hard on enabling our consumers on digital, one another thing which always comes with digital transactions is the aspect to prevent them, to safeguard them, to educate them. And hence,
Mhm.
initiatives like Paise Ki Pathshala become very, very important for us. They're a core business, part of the core business strategy to be able to educate your own consumers about various aspects of money. Because of as a brand, I'm not, my business might be of lending, but as a brand, I stand for enabling you to do more now. And if I'm standing for making your zindagi hit, which is nothing but giving you more reasons to celebrate life, then I need to be working on helping you understand money better, understand your in relationship of money better, and also help you understand how to safeguard yourself. So both growth and safeguard becomes a core part of our what core part of things what we do. Not only I do Paise Ki Pathshala, there is another thing very interesting I do, which is called as Project Saksham. Now, Saksham as a
Okay.
project is a so while Paise Ki Pathshala is a digital literacy program, whereas we kind of keep creating content and distributing content to our people and to everybody at large, open market. Saksham is a on ground literacy initiative where we kind of do workshops with our on ground partners. And these workshops are
Mhm.
primarily targeted at female folks of the country, of the hinterlands. We have done workshops in most remotest part of the country where it's not about the business or anything, it's only about purely education, educating females, girls about money. And this talks about everything. This talks about earning, this talks about saving, this talks about prevention, all three.
Mhm.
And I get asked this question a lot of times, why you are targeting only females here? For a very simple fact that there's a age old saying, you educate a male, you educate one, you educate a female, you educate a family or a generation. And also, I mean, if you look at India, the way our household social structure is designed is that while male might be the earning member, it's females who decide the budget and run the entire household budget.
Right.
And the financial literacy is not that great in the country. While we might be talking about literacy ratio of 70-80%, whatever, depending on which way you look at things, the male financial literacy is less than 30 and female is almost about 10-12%. So you help them have a better relationship with money, and this has got nothing to do with
Right.
only home credit or only loans. This is about their relationship with money. So I think that shows the commitment we have for the market, for our consumer sets, and for the society we operate into. Yeah, because we want the society, everybody to do better in their life. Yeah? And money
Incredible.
should be the last reason for somebody not to be able to do better.
I think it fits into what you mentioned, and even Zindagi hits so well. And talking about helping people, or rather helping people get educated, another player here is sort of influencers. And if you ask me, like literally got into investing into stock markets, for example, because of a lot of content out there. A lot of it is not the best, to say the least. But it really jolted me into becoming like an investor, right? The whole conversation around what will you do with your money in a bank account, invest it into the markets, make your money work for you. And that resonated with me quite a bit. I also know that they have massive impact, right? If you look at some influencers, they're like big businesses today. They are the reason a lot of people are also like getting on to a lot of financial apps and things like that. What's your personal opinion on influencers? Because they also have got a lot of feedback. Let's say there are also the questions about around them being regulated also. So how do you think influencers come in, and what role do they play in customer education today?
Given that what I just said, the financial literacy is not as great as it should be for a developing nation. To be a developed nation, I think the understanding about how to deal with money will is a critical part of our development as a nation. It is not one person's but everybody's job to help the other learn. And what we you can name it in any way, whether it is influencer or in whatever sense. I think as long as it remains the core objective remains about educating people, I think it's a great job done. The reason, if you look
Mhm.
at the regulatory bodies kind of looking at what they are trying to regulate, is about putting a putting a grid line between education and using narratives to drive certain objectives. I
Right.
don't think so there is any regulation in which says that, hey, don't give right education. But the question also comes, and for no wrong reasons, I can only tell you about things basis what I understand. Now, if
Right.
I start looking at a cat as a lion, I would only tell you that it's a lion. Okay. So, but and if you understand that it's a lion, or vice versa, if I start looking at a lion as a cat, if my understanding says, and if I start telling you it as a cat, then you will probably go and put a bowl of milk in front of it, and then all of us can estimate the or imagine the outcome. Am I right? What regulation
Right.
says is, before I can come and claim the authority that I understand that it is a lion, I should invest decent amount of time in researching and saying that it is a lion. Am I right? That is
Mhm.
what that is what in a very very nutshell regulation is saying. It's also is
Right.
about
Right.
to put the rightful onus of holding your words. These are two things. I mean, being responsible about what you are saying is what regulation is trying to put together. I think that will only help bring in authenticity because of, again, just building on to the example. If once you understand that I tell you lion as a cat, and if you lose that trust, then you won't probably hear anybody. Forget about me, you would start mistrusting everybody around, whoever comes to tell
Right.
you about anything. Okay, so I think
Right.
the regulation helps us bring back the trust. And coming back on your very first question is about education. You used a very right word out there, which is saying that, does the formal education help? Formal education does nothing but puts a authenticity to a person's basic credentials. You can certainly say that most of the people around the world who are very very successful are not formally educated. They are dropouts at the end of the day. But yeah, they are dropouts from Stanford and Harvard of the world. Am I right? They were not dropouts from some gully number char school. Am I right? So that brings in a certain bit of a authenticity. And similarly, if you are into a regulated zone, you will have more you will increase the trustworthiness of the advice or the education being imparted, which will help people have more trust and probably follow it better for their own learnings. Yeah, but they are a very important part
I
of the overall scheme of things. You can't ignore.
absolutely. I want to now, double down on, you just mentioned trust, right? I want to ask you more about trust. A lot of entrepreneurs, marketeers are dealing with this age old problem of building trust, with their customers. And you especially, in BFSI, trust is so key because you are literally giving money to them. In your past experiences, insurance and a whole lot of other financial services. So what's been your learning, in your entire career? If you were to advise a brand to build trust, what are some proven strategies which can help you get to that?
I think there's not much. It's a very very simple way. Remain authentic and stand for your consumer. Do two things, and consumers will be able to sense it out. Then all your
Mm-hmm.
actions will speak about it. You need to stand for your consumer as a marketer, and
Mm-hmm.
you can put whatever jargon you like, you can put whatever layer you like. But if you are saying that, oh, I am a trustworthy brand, and then you are kind of undercutting the consumer with
Mm-hmm.
certain 10 different actions. Am I right? You have all those check boxes which signs them for auto increment of their cart value. Trust will become a
Right.
little bit of a challenge. And being trustworthy does not mean being discounted. It means I do
Mm-hmm.
what I say and I tell you what I do. I keep you informed. I don't necessarily have 780 pages of TNC in which I will hide my intentions in the font number 6. It's about being very open and
Right.
transparent in saying this is what I am doing. To me, it has remained very, very simple. Remain authentic, communicate, and then be open for feedback. If a consumer comes back,
Mm-hmm.
there is nothing wrong in saying all of us can falter, make mistakes at times. And if you have done,
Right.
accept it openly and correct it. Indian consumers is pretty understanding if they trust you. And trust does not get built overnight. It takes time. You have to remain consistent. So do these things and do these things consistently. I was reading, and it's funny, I was reading somewhere, not my quote, but I read it somewhere that if you want an increment, please your boss. If you want award, please your agency. If you want a long career and a fruitful brand, please your customers. That will have a that will have a very, very healthy business and a very healthy brand metrics. I think it sticks to me. I think if you follow this, it'll kind of help you in long run.
No, that's really well put. On the authenticity aspect, Ashish, I can't help but think there are so many companies. Let's say we take a Independence Day or a Diwali. Lot of people say a lot of things. Be it I'll plant a tree every time this happens, or I will feed children every time that happens, etc., etc. And the sentiment around people around me, people younger than me, folks who are, let's say, in high school, is a lot around, yeah, I don't trust them anymore, or nahi aise marketing ke liye bol rahe hai, etc., etc. So I really find, like, even if there are good intentions, for some reason whenever a brand is trying to say something, especially the younger audience just never believes them to be authentic. I am seeing more and more of that happening today. um, how can you really tackle such a bias, a generation creates towards you, maybe because of some bad apples, in the past, maybe you've done something poorly. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Just to build on to your question, okay? What if I tell you that I'll plant so many trees and the report will be published on this URL every 3 weeks, and I also invite, if you want to visit, why don't you come? I want to plant 1 lakh trees, and I invite all the people who are interested, nominate yourself, okay? The tree plantation drive is on these days. Come and join me. And then
Hmm.
you can probably name the tree onto one person, you can name one tree onto the name you want, put a little plate out there which is your tree, and you will be able to track the growth of that tree on this URL. I mean, do you think you will still
Super.
have the trust issue?
Probably not, no.
I can add it up. I will put a reporting mechanism around because of trees are planted at these places. You can even create a on ground buddy. So it's not only a tree, but you will also get a chance to learn the locals and befriend locals who will watch out for your tree, and you can host them whenever they
Awesome.
are in your city. Do you think you can even
Right.
question? You will have 10 different people fighting for
No.
you if somebody comes and questions you because of those 10 people would have seen it on ground.
Right.
You can't
Right.
expect, and that's what I'm saying. You cannot expect to keep the things in a black box and expect everybody else to trust you.
Right.
Trust is a street on which the only way to get somebody coming is to walk. You first need to give before you can expect to be to get. That is true for individuals, that is
Right.
true for brands.
Absolutely.
You need to involve people, involve them in your journey. Co-creation is a mantra.
Yeah, I think involve, co-create, and be transparent are, I think, some keywords I took back from your answer. Um, Another aspect I wanted to, talk about is data and market research. You mentioned in our interview already a few times on your profile too. You keep on having, a point of view on data and understanding and finding insights. So I wanted to know, what's your advice on gathering market insights for a young company? Because I hear a lot of people going to these big research companies and buying their intelligence. It's probably possible for some large brands, but for new founders, it's incredibly hard to even think about hiring a firm, to do that for you. So how do you really go about doing research when you don't have those big budgets?
You know, there's a beautiful saying that good, cheap, and quick. There's only two things you can get. You can't have all three coming to you. So whenever somebody comes to me and says that, oh, I don't have data, I only ask, why do you need data? What you need is insight. Nobody likes data, people need insights. And typically, from a trillion bytes and picobytes of data, you might get some kbs of insight. And insights come about knowing your business, knowing your consumer, knowing the problem they face, and what is your solution. For that, you don't need, I mean, if you're a small business, typically your problems are also local. Am
Hmm.
I right? The only reason why you are still in that challenge about saying that, oh, how do I afford $1 trillion research, is because of you haven't done your own job of understanding either your business or the market or the consumer or the problem your consumer faces, and you want to outsource the hard work to somebody else. If you outsource the hard work, either
Right.
you do a hard work or you pay the hard cash. You can't choose to keep both. Am I right? If you're a large
Correct.
business, your problems are also more complex normally, and for
Hmm.
nothing else but the magnitude of the problem. I mean, if I am operating in 130 countries, I am having a heterogeneity of consumer who I'm dealing with, or the
Right.
environment I am dealing with. The data will also be as large. And somebody is
Right.
saying that, think about it now. Say, and I'm just taking a random example. I mean, I am on Instagram, and so is probably the founder of Meta. Both are on Instagram, both will have a profile. Now, I want to understand who's following me versus he wants to understand what his followers want. Who do you think will have more complex task? Certainly not me, because if I will have probably say 100 followers,
Correct.
he will also have only about 100 million followers. The only million word will increase. Analytics of his 100 million will
Right.
take much longer than mine. Now I say that, oh, I need to have
Right.
the best of the tools and some high flying agency to do it. So it's not a problem of, and today, in today's age and time, it's not a problem of data, it's a problem of insights. We are actually living in
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
age of more data and data overload more often than not.
Hmm. On insights, any favorite insights over your career you found out and built a campaign around that, if anything you'd like to share?
Oh, multiple. I think all my campaigns are built on insight. I like to either appreciate, challenge, or educate the consumers' challenges. You look at
Hmm.
the current campaigns of home credit, the entire Zindagi hit. The reason why we coined the
Right.
term Zindagi hit is it is based on the consumer insight that whenever anybody buys anything new, the first thing is typically the first few words coined to the person is congratulations, chal party de. Am I
Correct.
right? तेरी लाइफ तो सेट है यार,
Correct.
तेरे को ये चीज नया मिला, या हिट है ब्रो,
Right.
राइट? So zindagi ain't nothing
Right.
but a celebration of that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
so we help you celebrate more often, or we
Superb.
become part of that. Am I right? Before that, I mean,
Right.
and all my campaigns are on the same zone, whereas
Mm-hmm.
we keep celebrating the achievements of people. This entire paise ki pathshala which we are talking about is based on consumer insight, that there is more and more people are getting more and more curious about to explore their relationship with money. I can
Superb.
keep giving you
Got it.
examples
Yeah.
for forever times.
Awesome.
I'm old,
No,
so
but thanks for breaking down the Zindagi hit bit. I think it really helps young marketers understand how an insight transforms into a campaign. Often people think, you come up with some catchy lines and some cool concepts for a film and campaign ban gaya, and your problems will be solved. But it's much more strategy. It's much more data driven compared to what conventionally folks think. Um, Talking about campaigns, I wanted to ask you about what's the ideal creative production stack for a brand. You've been in multiple organizations, pretty fairly large ones, to young start to comparatively smaller companies. And today there is a lot of chatter around it's the end of the AOR, things are coming in house, things are moving project based, etc., etc. So, what's your creative production stack? Do you have an in house team? Do you have an agency? Is it a hybrid? I'd love to know more.
Kavan, there is no one size fits all approach which has worked for me. It depends on the
Okay.
kind of organization and kind of challenges we are facing. I have worked in environments where you have a large in-house, okay, and then you do a project based. I also have worked where
Mm-hmm.
you have a AORs and very thin in-house, okay. It depends on the the way to look at it is the framework which I follow is to look at challenges and
Mm-hmm.
the skill set which are required to find figure out and address those challenges, and the speed to address those challenges,
Mm-hmm.
need of speed, okay. And depending on these three things, one should be able to kind of do. If it is a lot more replication and quick replication, I think in-house stacks works better. If it is need to, if your challenge keeps varying and you have different magnitude of it, then a partner based, a long term partnership works better, because of they typically have a large exposure to or the investment into different skill sets, and you can keep dipping and using them, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a mix of both, then balance both, yeah. So
Right.
I think
Got it.
that's my typical framework. If I were to tell you, will the approach which worked for brand A will work at brand B, it won't. That's not how one
Right.
should be. I mean, because of, it's like life. You can't address everything by same stroke. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You must have worked with so many agencies in your career. Uh, we are a network at Indiefolio, a network of independent consultants, owners of small boutique studios and agencies. I'd love to ask you on their behalf, what differentiates a good agency from a great agency, according to you?
I think so. I would like to differ. I have not worked with any agency. I typically like to work with partners. Okay. Because of the moment you put an agency, all these terminologies have their own impact. A lot of them call themselves as
Right.
vendors. There's
Yeah.
a differentiation between vendor and partner. Vendor is typically I am responsible to follow a process. A partner is responsible to keep exploring. So as a vendor or an agency, you give me brief. I have tat of 7 days. I'll come back to you. A
Right.
partner rather will come back to you with problems, will have openness to challenge you, and be assertive enough to challenge and nimble enough to change. I think any partner who have these two things, okay, proactive to identify and also uh, is openly reactive to address. I think these four things,
Mhm.
that's my typical. Again, here is what my physics and maths come kicks in. So put everything into a kind of a framework which is transparent and easy for at least stakeholders to understand. So from planned to reactive
Absolutely.
and from being assertive to nimble, I think, or a
Mm. Yeah.
flexible. I think I typically look at people who are, depending on the challenge I am fixing and industry I am operating, I will look at the North Stars in these blocks. And that's
Fantastic.
what
I
sets,
think loving all the frameworks, by the way.
this is what sets great to
Yeah.
normal partners, I think.
Fantastic. No, I'm loving tuning into all the frameworks so far, and I think I also second what you mentioned. We observe a lot of people who actually challenge the briefs. End up actually forming much stronger relations, and in turn, much better projects, much better revenue compared to the ones who are just executing. Then they're kind of lost in the whole battle to kind of get the contract. Talking about content production as well, Ashish, I think the elephant in the room for a lot of agencies and creative partners is AI. There's been a lot of conversations around how there will be like a one person company, a one person marketing team, a one person agency. Um, what's your outlook towards AI, and how do you think it will disrupt content creation for a marketer?
Interesting. I'll go back to, as I said, I am at times like these, I feel that I have become pretty old. You know, year 1999 or around that time, there were demonstrations around the country saying that if computers come in, everybody will lose their job. Okay, a lot of people probably not remember, but yes, there were demonstrations, and there are documented proofs that when the wheel was invented and the fire was invented, the reaction was almost same. I think today when I look at the AI, what it does is, to my mind, it augments your professional capabilities. What we forget is that it also, the environment also augments consumer expectations. The consumer expectation which were there in year 1999 or 2000 were very different than what they are today. Your parents and grandparents will tell you these stories that they booked a scooter and waited for that for 7 years. They
Right.
applied for a gas cylinder and they waited. These are basics, necessities. I mean, in a society or a colony, as they call it, of 100 houses, there used to be one landline, and everybody will kind of hook up to that. To a time that everybody is carrying three phones in their pockets. Consumers have evolved.
Right.
So as the delivery will evolve, the organizations will evolve, the consumer will evolve. The challenge is not, the skill sets might, the required skill sets to do a particular job might be different, but
Mhm.
I am unsure if we will have a complete Armageddon that there will be no humans, all of us will only be walking dogs, and AI will be doing everything. So I would particularly differ with that. I think
Mhm.
I think much before AI coming in, when the cameras came into phone, everybody became a movie producer. Am I right? Did you see
Right.
theaters going dry?
Not at all.
There will always be. I mean, you will always have a space for creativity, and what nothing else can do but humans is redefine themselves and put that angle of creativity and come up with something completely different from the earlier done. Now, some
Right.
of us might say that, oh, the AGI has those capabilities, and because of machine learning, There is always a differentiation between being additive and being transformational. Machines have additive capabilities, humans have transformational capabilities. And I think that will
Right.
keep us still going. That's how I feel. Rest. I mean, I am not a future teller. I can't talk what will happen 30 years down the line. I'm a basic marketer. I can only imagine and I can only read the consumers and provide what I can.
I think very well put. In our past podcasts, we've discussed so many times that while AI may be the answer, what's the question? And I think that really sums up that AI is like a very effective intern, but it doesn't have the experience or context, and that's what you bring to the table for every job at hand. So I think fully resonate with what you're trying to say. This brings us to the last question, by the way, of our podcast. I when you joined the the whole workplace, I think we didn't even have Google, Facebook wasn't around, and digital was not really a big rather any priority for a company. And now call yourself a digital first marketer, and you made it to a CMO. A lot of people today entering the market want to become a CMO. They're like, okay, one day I lead marketing for a company. So if you were to give advice to anybody who is just starting out their careers, who are maybe in their 20s, what should be their focus areas for when they're in their 20s and early 30s, right? What are the things they should double down on, which will hopefully guarantee a good path towards becoming a CMO?
I think I said this earlier. The only person who one should go behind, double down, try and understand is consumer. Be in the market, be with your consumer, understand the consumer. Nothing else will teach you more about your business than your consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And then understand their challenges and then map it back upon how to solve them, appreciate them,
Mm-hmm.
communicate with them. And that should ensure a seat in boardroom. There's no way else.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for you know giving such articulate answers and giving frameworks for I think a lot of aspects we discussed. I hope you had a good 1 hour well spent with me, and I hope you enjoyed.
Oh, Kavan, it was great. It was great chatting up with you, and thanks for having me here. Yeah.
It was a absolute pleasure. And for everybody who's tuned along so far, if you'd like another marketing expert like Ashish to join us, do like, share, and subscribe. There'll be another episode coming out very, very soon.